think in the valley you get more bored, so you do like weird shit. You know?
That's true.
I loved growing up.
My grandfather was, performer. He was so, beyond amazing.
There's a hush that falls over Graceland. Even with dozens of tourists whispering in the hallways and camera flashes bouncing off glass cases, there's a stillness, a kind of reverence. Velvet ropes keep visitors just far enough away. The pool table in the basement? You can't touch it. The kitchen? Off limits. Upstairs? You're not even allowed to peek. To many, this isn't just a house. It's a shrine, a carefully preserved world, sealed in amber since the day Elvis left it. So, when news broke that Elvis Presley's granddaughter, Riley Keough, had filmed a movie inside the mansion, not beside it, not around it, but in the very rooms fans travel thousands of miles to stand outside of, it was like someone had cracked open a glass box. The reactions were immediate and divided. Some saw it as a homecoming. Others saw it as sacrilege. But the facts are simple. Riley's new short film, a 6.5-minute documentary titled In Process, was shot entirely at Graceland. Bedrooms, living rooms, the pool, even the jungle room. And for the first time, the mansion wasn't just being observed, it was being used. Why would Riley do this? Why now? And how did fans, many of whom consider Graceland sacred ground, respond to seeing couches sat on, horses touched, and parties thrown in Elvis's once private sanctuary? That's what we're about to explore, because behind the velvet ropes and the family name is a story about legacy, memory, and what it means to call a place home. The film is called In Process, and at just over 6 minutes, it doesn't try to explain everything. Instead, it reveals fragments, quiet moments, a creative rhythm. Riley Keough doesn't speak to the camera. She narrates like she's thinking aloud, letting us into her head, her habits, her rituals. There's no climax, no plot, just motion, writing, wandering, remembering. Shot entirely in black and white, the film floats through Graceland like a ghost. Riley and her friends picnic in the backyard. She lays on the bed in her great-grandparents' room. There's a party by the pool. Music in the music room. Drinks in the basement. And in the jungle room. That surreal, wood-paneled shrine Elvis once loved. Riley just sits, watching, waiting. But this wasn't a film about Elvis. It was about process, hers, about what it means to make art as a woman, as a daughter, as the granddaughter of a man whose shadow covers everything. Riley isn't just Elvis's granddaughter. She's a working actress, producer, director, and now the co-writer of her late mother, Lisa Marie Presley's upcoming memoir, From Here to the Great Unknown. It's the first time Lisa's life will be told in her own voice, and Riley's. So when it came time to explore creativity and memory, where else would she go? Graceland wasn't just a symbol to Riley, it was real. She remembers the house not as a shrine, but as a place where she ate Southern food in the dining room, ran around with cousins, and watched her mother host Christmas parties. It didn't feel like a museum, she once said. It felt full. And maybe that's the point. For the public, Graceland is history frozen in time. For Riley, it's the starting point of every story she's still learning how to tell. There's a single shot in Process that made some fans stop breathing. Riley Keough, barefoot, expression soft, reflective, is lying on a bed. But not just any bed. It's the bed in Gladys and Vernon Presley's room, just off the main hallway at Graceland. It's where Elvis's parents once slept. A room preserved with the same furniture, the same placement, a time capsule just feet from the public tour path. and suddenly, there she is, sitting, moving, living in it. Other moments follow quickly, each more startling to longtime fans. The pool, normally fenced off and silent, is now the setting for a casual party. Someone swims. Someone laughs. In the basement's iconic pool room, the one tourists walk through with hushed voices and forbidden flash photos, Riley's guests hold drinks and casually lean over the table. The jungle room, with its famously eccentric green carpet, carved wood furniture, and tiki lamps, is now filled with clicking cameras and conversation. In one shot, Riley sits calmly on the floor as a photographer captures images. It's not destruction, it's creation. But to some, it doesn't feel right. One fan commented, "I was bothered to see these actor models all up on everything. I just visited Graceland last month, and the reverence in every room was overwhelming. Seeing people on the couches and in the pool like it's an Airbnb was honestly jarring." Another echoed, "I cringed when they were using the pool table and drinking in the basement. That's the same table Elvis played on. What if they spill something? What if they damage it more?" For many fans, these aren't just rooms, they're relics, untouchable symbols of Elvis's legacy. Seeing them used, even gently, even lovingly, feels like watching someone scribble in the margins of a sacred text. But others saw it differently. They argued that Graceland was always a home first, that Lisa Marie threw parties there, that Elvis himself lived loud, laughed hard, and broke plenty of rules inside those walls. Still, the images struck a nerve. Because whether you're a preservationist or not, there's something undeniably electric about watching Riley move through rooms the world was told not to touch. And maybe that's the point. The story lives not just in what we preserve, but in what we dare to re-enter. The critics see sacred objects. Riley sees memories. To some fans, Riley filming at Graceland feels like trespass. But for Riley, it's return, it's continuation, it's home. In process, Riley doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't justify. She remembers. She talks about growing up there, the family dinners in the formal dining room, the sound of cousins racing down the hallway, the smell of southern food drifting from the kitchen. The house, she says softly, felt full. For most people, Graceland is velvet ropes and silent hallways. But Riley grew up in the in-between spaces, during Thanksgivings, sleepovers, quiet visits with her mother, Lisa Marie. For her, the jungle room wasn't some museum relic. It was the place where her childhood happened. It did not feel like a museum, she once explained. It felt like a family home. And technically, it is. Riley became the sole trustee of Graceland after her mother's sudden death in 2023. It wasn't a title she sought, but one she embraced. She didn't just inherit the house. She inherited the responsibility to protect it, share it, and live with it. So when it came time to film a story about creativity and identity, she chose the only place that ever really made sense. From the outside, it might look like a performance, but to Riley, it's deeply personal. Every step through the house is a layer of her past. The bed she lies on isn't just Elvis's parents' bed, it's the place she once sat with her mom. The jungle room isn't just a tourist stop. It's where she watched Lisa Marie's photo shoots, sang along to old songs, and started to understand what legacy felt like. And that's where the conflict softens. Because when you see the film through Riley's eyes, it becomes something else entirely. Not an invasion, but an invitation into a life the public rarely sees. Into a space where grief and memory, art and ancestry, all quietly blur together. To some, it's hallowed ground. To her, it's home. Always was. This story isn't just about a short film. It's about something deeper, something far more fragile than carpet or curtains. It's about who gets to shape the story now. Because for decades, Elvis's legacy has been preserved behind glass, curated, commercialized, and, in many ways, frozen. But with Lisa Marie Presley's sudden passing in 2023, the question of what now suddenly became very real, and it didn't take long for the cracks to show. Just months after Lisa Marie's death, Riley Keough found herself in a battle no granddaughter should ever have to fight: a criminal attempt to take Graceland away. In May 2024, news broke that a Missouri woman had forged documents to falsely claim ownership of Graceland, hoping to push it into foreclosure. The plan was elaborate, deceptive, and, for a moment, terrifyingly real. Riley was thrust into a legal and emotional nightmare. The house her family had protected for generations was at risk of being sold to strangers. The scheme was eventually exposed. The woman pleaded guilty. Justice was served. But the message was clear: Graceland isn't just a landmark, it's a target. And Riley? She didn't flinch. She took the reins, not just as the legal trustee, but as the emotional one, the cultural one, the quiet protector of a legacy too large for one person to carry, but too important to leave in the hands of opportunists. So when she walked through those rooms in process, it wasn't about rebellion. It was about reclamation, reconnecting with the place her mother loved, reasserting her family's presence inside the walls so many outsiders now feel entitled to. This isn't just about preserving Elvis. It's about preserving truth, about who he was and who his family still is. Riley didn't inherit a museum. She inherited a story, one full of music, memory, grief, and resilience. And she's writing the next chapter, carefully, quietly, and unapologetically. Because when it comes to Graceland, the house may belong to history, but the legacy belongs to her. At the center of all this is one lingering, difficult question. Can a place be both sacred and lived in? Graceland holds different meanings for different people. For millions of fans, it's the final footprint of Elvis Presley, preserved like a cathedral, roped off, untouchable. Every lamp, every chair, every shag-carpeted wall tells a story. To move anything feels like erasing history. But for Riley, those same walls echo with something more personal: life, laughter, conversations, music, her own memories of being a child in a home that just happened to be famous. And now, the debate is louder than ever. Some fans stand firmly on the side of preservation. Everything in Graceland is an artifact, one commenter wrote. It can't be replaced. The pool table, the furniture, these are Elvis's things. They're not props. Others push back. It's her house, another fan said. Lisa Marie left it to her. Riley has every right to use it however she chooses. That's what Elvis would have wanted, for it to feel alive. Both sides care deeply. Both believe they're honoring the king in their own way. And maybe they both are. Because the truth is, Graceland was a home. Then it became a museum. And now, for a few quiet, controversial minutes in process, it became both. A place of stillness and motion, of preservation and creation. So we ask you, what do you think? Should Graceland remain frozen in time? Or should the family that knew it best be allowed to step back inside? Let us know in the comments. Because in the end, legacy isn't just about what we lock away. It's about what we're still willing to feel. In the final scene of In Process, Riley sits on the floor of her great-grandparents' bedroom. The light is soft, the colors black and white. A velvet rope quietly stretches across the doorway. On the other side, tourists walk by in single file, peering in, whispering, wondering. But Riley doesn't move. She sits calmly, almost invisibly, in a room most people only ever glimpse from the edge. The rope is back in place. The museum is restored. But for a few moments, she was inside. And maybe she still is. It was just a very human story, set in an unusual place, she says in voiceover. But for me, it's the most usual place in the world. And with that, the film ends. No music, no message, just a woman in a house, remembering something only she can remember. Graceland has always been more than just bricks and furniture. It's a feeling, one that changes depending on where you're standing. To fans, it's a monument. To tourists, a destination. To Riley, it's where everything began. And now, she's not just visiting, she's adding to it. Not erasing, not replacing, just writing her part in a space shaped by echoes. In the quiet aftermath of grief, after headlines and courtrooms, after expectations and arguments, Riley did something both bold and deeply simple. She came home, not to make noise, but to listen, to sit with the weight of legacy, to remember a man she never truly knew, in a house that somehow always knew her. And maybe that's what legacy really is. Not just what we protect, but what we're willing to step back into. Still, gently, unafraid.